Okay. All right. Students, we have a special guest. In fact, I am making a special offer, as you see, thanks to Harry Lang, the author of this book, Brands, Bandwagons, and Bullshit. 2 winning teams received these copies, a picture of me here with 4 of them. And so I've invited Harry to come speak to all of you as our graduation guest to share some advice that's found in this book. But all of you, if you didn't win the hard copy, you can get a Kindle version for $2, and all of you should. This is your professor giving you this last piece of homework advice. So I don't know where I found it or how I did, but somehow this book crossed my path on LinkedIn, I think. And so I immediately purchased it, as you folks know I often do, and read it cover to cover, fell in love with it, and decided that this is what I need to offer as a gift to my winning teams this semester. So the first part of the book is on getting started, the basics, from applying for your job to covering strategic issues, channels, the basic tenets of marketing. And the second part is called the marketing bit. It's about tactics, campaigns, branding, lessons learned, advice shared, case studies. And so this is written for those that are considering a career, which already you have embarked on this or are about to embark on this marketing journey a week after you hear this presentation. So I also appreciated that Rory Sutherland, who I know you know because I shared that I was a panelist with Rory this semester, and he talked about how the gloss, we're going to talk about this in a second, Harry, how the book starts with a glossary. And then I have never seen a rector of a church recommend a marketing book previously. So we're going to ask Harry about that as well. So there's a lot of love for this book. I have a lot of love for this book. So first, let's start by saying, Harry, well done. And welcome to our little version of a TED Talk, a fireside chat, a words of wisdom, whatever you want to call this. Say hello and maybe a few words before we start the Q&A.
Well, what an intro, Tom. Gosh, I've got to follow that, which is a tough brief in its own right. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for that kind introduction. And to all of you guys, you students about to graduate, it's lovely to virtually meet you all. I guess this is what we're used to nowadays, is 2-dimensional meet and greets. But it's lovely to be here. And hopefully those who have won a copy of the book and those who might go on to read it will find a few useful tidbits loosely gleaned from the mistakes I've made through the last 22 years in my own marketing career. But it's terrific to be here, and it's great to be chatting with you, Tom.
Fantastic. Now I'm just taking a picture here because I want to put this up on LinkedIn next week when we have this thing live. So the first thing is, why did you write the book, Harry? I know we've talked a little bit before we started recording, but how did the book come about?
So I enjoy writing anyway, Tom. I've written a couple of disappointing novels in the past, a lot of articles for the marketing press and the gambling press. I was in the gambling industry for the last 16 years. I simply enjoy it as a hobby anyway. The opportunity arose with lockdown. My consultancy business kind of dried up in the first lockdown, and it was an opportunity to get writing again. And I thought, well, one thing I really haven't done yet is explore my own career and look inwardly, because I remembered very clearly 20 odd years ago when I started out, I had no idea what I was doing at all, as the same for anyone who starts out in agency or in-house marketing. But there were no resources available to me at the time, and it wasn't a particularly open industry in terms of generating training opportunities and helping out with people who had no experience whatsoever. And for me, it was a bit of an open goal opportunity. I could take all of my own experiences, positive and negative, some of the writing I'd done in the marketing press, and hone it into a guidebook, effectively for students and those entering the start of their marketing career to go, like you said, from everything of how do you go about choosing the channels or the verticals you want to work in, all the way through to the interview process, how to get your foot in the door, how to go through that, and then the early parts of marketing, the channels, what makes those up. I lent on some friends of mine in the industry, so people from founded PR agencies like Hope and Glory, a friend of mine, Dave Gilbert at Facebook, or Meta as it is now, Carrie Rose, who's the exceptional CEO of Rise at 7, one of the very good SEO agencies over here in the UK, and a number of other professionals to sort of like headline the chapters on each channel. And I put it all together basically, and it's designed to be a guidebook. It is not all the answers. There's probably a lot of questions in there raised too, but it is an opportunity for me to try and mitigate the mistakes that I made and help you guys, the students, avoid doing the same, whilst also getting a bit of an idea about, well, I'm good at this, this, and this. Well, maybe I'm a performance marketer, or I like dealing with people. I like the idea of generating noise. Maybe PR is the one for me. So I'm hoping beyond all hope that it is kind of a useful guide and something that can prompt you to think about a career in marketing with less trepidation and less of that fear factor, because the last place you want to be is sort of day one in your new job thinking, well, I know absolutely nothing and I'm meant to know everything. Now, the first truism in the book, no one knows anything really. And you're absolutely okay to be the one in the room putting the hand in the air. In fact, it'll be applauded to put your hand in the air and say, I don't understand this bit. I'd love to understand it better, rather than do what I did, which was pretend I was the know-all, pretend I knew everything, which I didn't, of course. And ultimately, I looked stupid on many occasions by pretending that good meant seemingly knowing everything. So I'm hoping mistakes like that can be avoided by anyone who reads the book.
Well, without a doubt, it starts with the glossary, which I got a kick out of because you have the term, the description, and then like a real insight as to what we're talking about here. And that's what Rory Sutherland of Ogilvy, the great Rory, brilliant, a genius. He thought it was a genius move. Harry going with a glossary up front. And my students, I know, appreciate this, and it's sad. I said this in my review, sad that I was the first reviewer in the USA, ridiculous, of this amazing book, but why we don't agree on these terms. Accountants have no issues with terms. Finance professionals, why marketers? Why is it such a problem for us?
I think that my perception is there's a very simple answer to this. That is one of the great things and one of the biggest Achilles heels of the marketing industry. It is a business that is the balance of commercial win and creativity, whether it's creative strategy, the actual creativity of design, and we're a business, a money-making entity as well. We drive sales, we drive customer acquisition, we drive conversion, retention, reactivation. Because of that balance of commercial versus creativity, we feel the need to create all the time. It doesn't feel like it's ownable unless we came up with it ourselves. Ergo, making a new term, honing a new phrase, making something neat and packaging it up in this lovely acronym bundle, that's kind of in the DNA. It feels right. And the irony being, all of that goes the opposite direction to the truism of what marketing should be, which is making everything more simple. The greatest campaigns in the world, the greatest strategies, the biggest commercial wins by the biggest brands have been these tiny bits of very clear insight executed implicitly well on the right channels, and the message is absolutely clear to the right number or the maximum number of people. That's what good looks like. And with these acronyms, we've gone the other way. We feel the need to come up with more and more and more because it makes us feel clever. It makes us feel we have ownership of a new space. And this is twin with the other thing is we exist in a world which is never perfect. If you're in finance and you're a CFO or an accountant within a business, you can have perfect. You can have a perfect balance sheet. Your ones and zeros add up. In our world, you can have a nearly perfect day, possibly once in a career. Everything lines up and goes well. Now, it won't ever be absolutely perfect because you can always find one grain of difference. The next day, that strategy, that tactical plan, the execution, the campaign balance, the creative, the copy, the audience, the media, the spend balance will all be wrong. And so you go back again, you have to review. It is never static and you can never have perfect. So I think between those two things, that's where we've ended up where we have. And the need for me to have the glossary at the front, I mean, it was in there pretty early on. I had it at the back because it was one of those things. It was an enjoyable part of the writing process. I had this massive spreadsheet at the back of the manuscript. And every time I had an idea for something or came across something new, I'd drop it in there and I'd write the long description, and then I'd write my TLDR version, which was, a bit more lighthearted, a bit more tongue-in-cheek, but actually more useful. And in the second draft, maybe I just took the whole thing, copied it or chopped it out and pasted it right at the front of the book, because it occurred to me that all of these things I want to reference at some point, maybe not all of them, but the useful ones I want to reference. And if people don't know what they are, there's no way I want people flicking to the back of the book to go, what the hell is ARPU? And then flicking back again. I mean, there's no way to read a book. So I thought I'd put it at the front, make it a bit more lighthearted so it actually doesn't bore people to tears, because there was a bit of a worry about that at one point. But yeah, it seems to have been popular, and it seems to have been taken by people like Rory and yourself, Tom, as, well, that's kind of a good idea. We should probably do that in business texts a bit more often. So if I can assist that process, then wonderful.
Well, I think the problem in our discipline is one, again, Kimberly Whittier, or Whitler, excuse me, from the University of Virginia, who studied CMOs in depth. For an article she wrote for the Harvard Business Review, she reviewed 100, 150, 200 CMOs on LinkedIn. That was their title. And 10% at most had marketing training. And so you've got that problem. And then the other side is you've got the creatures that are slithering through the cracks. You try to keep these out, the Gary V types, the Simon Sinek wackos with the my purpose is all that matters. We've got these digital marketers that think that's all that matters. And so they're part of our problem. Either the non-trained that work in our discipline, or these folks that only see through a digital focus, and they believe, here was always my complaint, Harry, and I think you agree. If you're an ad agency, if you're a digital marketing agency, number one, I don't think you should be doing this strategy. The strategy should come from the client who's done proper marketing training, that has looked at the situational analysis, that has developed a strategy and has rolled out a plan. And as a result of this plan, we seek an ad agency or we seek a digital marketing partner. We tell them, we don't go to them, hey, give us a strategy, because the tactics will be, you need ads, you need digital marketing. So it's crap, right or wrong?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to call you wrong on that. No, I mean, it's utter crap. In fact, I mean, I'd like to know who these people are who are giving strategy over to the agencies. Now, I'm not going to diss the position of agencies in our business. I think there's an awful lot of benefits to the specialist skills that they can bring to the table.
Yeah, they bring a creativity that we need. I agree.
And I also think on the collaborative side, when you're looking at localizing, you're a centrally run business, you're looking at localization, there's a lot of talent to be had from localization via an agency based in that geography. So I think there's an element of collaboration within that respect. Handing over the entire suitcase and saying, build me a strategy, that just sounds like laziness on one part. But and I'm certainly not going to diss the Sineks and Gary V's of this world, because if I could sell even a tenth of their book sales, I think my Ferrari would be polishing itself outside right now. So
yeah, but the thing, so Harry, just make up crap, that appeals to people's egos. That Gary V, I'm on the record not a fan of the guy. I think he does more damage to my students in my classroom with the stuff that he says. Like I just remember within the last 2 years he discovered copywriting. Well, Gary, wake up, mate! Come on,
Well, I'm assuming to all your students who are watching this, I'm assuming everyone's bought an NFT by now, because obviously everyone's going to be a billionaire by next Tuesday.
I would doubt they have.
Good.
At least the professor's telling them, don't do that. Wait, you're wasting your money. It's scary.
Yeah.
So I do believe if they read your book, it'll be a far better foundation of learning than expect to learn from the experts that you see on Twitter. as I say, I'm not a fan of the Neil Patels and the digital marketing types that only have advice around these little areas. That I'm a believer in the marketers like a Ritson or a Byron Sharp, or those that try to base it on let's say theories that have been tested.
Well, and
proven.
crucially, they've actually tested it themselves. I mean,
Yes.
I totally concur. I've chatted on and off with Mark Ritson over the years. He's a fellow writer at Marketing Week, obviously. Byron Sharp, I've had a couple of engagements with on Twitter. Yeah, these guys do this for a living, and very, very well. They have the training background. There's this horrible debate that goes on about formal marketing training versus learning on the job, and I hate that. I didn't do a marketing degree. I wish I had done more formal training early on. I've started doing much more latterly in my career to try and catch up. There is absolutely a place for becoming a better marketer through the formality of training, learning how the structural piece is put together. I think, quite tellingly, the books you name checked there, the writers, they're writing books to sell copies. They're not writing books to actually help people in a career. That's what I'm trying to do, and I'm selling very few copies. There's a big difference in that. So again, I'm not going to diss the success stories out there. I would probably suggest looking further afield for your students into the Ritsons and the Sharps of this world, and some of the classical ad men as well who've got very good books on copy and strategy. But yeah, there's a lot to be said. It sounds like you've been giving them a good grounding in what to look for, in how to hone their expertise via training and reading what's out there. But like everything, there's a billion snake oil salesmen out there trying to do their thing. Hopefully, your guys, having come through formal training at college and your own courses, they're probably going to be much better served than people like me that rocked up in Adland and kind of scrabbled for anything I could get my hands on. And I went down some Alice in Wonderland rabbit holes a lot until I realized where I stood. And in fact, I think the bandwagon piece of the title of my book, that was one of the key lessons I got in my first job. My boss in my first consultancy job, and he said this wonderful quote that's in the first page, I think: "If you can see a bandwagon, you've probably missed it." And I refer to that all the time, and it refers to crypto, NFTs,
Yes.
marketing trends, channel trends. It's not strictly true all the time, but it does give a word of caution about diving in to the latest fad. The latest fad, it might not be right for you, it might not be the right price point, it might be utter horseshit, it might be many, many things. It's not necessarily the magic bullet. So just treating these things with a little bit of caution is a really sensible first step. And then making your own decisions once you analyze the capability and requirements in a bit more detail yourself, and making your own judgment, not listening to someone who perhaps has a vested interest in you buying into it. That's kind of the thing.
Yeah. Well, without a doubt, I work with a lot of, first of all, in my class, my students work with small businesses in our local town. We have a chamber of commerce that's our partner. And so my marketing strategy class is unlike any other. The first half of the year, we're competing in a intense marketing strategy bike simulation competition where they literally they're building bikes, they're setting prices, they are, the marketplace is constantly changing. Every quarter they upload their decisions, and then the software feeds it back and they see where they are. Best balanced financial scorecard wins the company's marketplace simulations. They have about 50 business simulations, whatever the discipline is. And unfortunately, you have to be a student or an academic to do it. You can't, I'm going to tell them they have to make this available to the public. It's a fantastic way to learn.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. I mean, God only knows, I wish I'd have been around when I was starting out. It's exactly the sort of real world experience. And I often tell people who are starting, and I do a little bit of mentorship for people who are at university who want to get into this world. And I often say, look, if you've got an interest in SEO, build a WordPress site. Pick an industry that's related to your favorite hobby, whether it's football or esports or music, ticket sales, whatever it might be. Build a little website, get it ranked, get it indexed, work out H1, H2 tags, and generate some traffic, and make one sale. Make one sale through that process, and you will learn more doing that than you will do from listening to an awful lot of other stuff or floating around client work, just by being cold-faced, just by the real life experience, and crucially, When you do spend 4 hours doing something and it generates exactly 0 sales, you won't do it again. You absolutely won't do it again, because no one has got that bone in their body that says, Christ, that was stupid. I fancy doing it one more time. So I do think exercises like that, which really bring to life the ethics, and it doesn't have to be like at a massive scale, like your course, the bike model, doing something which brings in the various elements and allows you to plug them in together. The only difference between that and a fully integrated global strategy for a massive brand is the number of zeros at the end of your budget line. No, the balance will remain the same. The way channels will operate together will remain the same. It just gets proed up by money. That's kind of it. It doesn't have to be more complex than that.
Yeah, well, and in this exercise, they're doing things that their counterparts are doing in the real world. They're building brands, products. They're picking their distribution channels. They're doing ads online. It's just an amazing training experience that these folks in Tennessee have developed. Ernie Cadet and Marketplace Simulations Group, and so that those teams that. They're the ones that are getting the books. So you see, Harry, how this applies. But then the other half, we work with clients applying all that we studied. And so, again, I try to bring experience into this more than certainly more than most. And here's the issue with marketing training. Some professors aren't so good. Some haven't updated their stuff. Here in the United States, there's a lot that haven't read How Brands Grow. 1, How Brands Grow. 2, they haven't read Distinctive Brand Assets. So I think over where you're at, United Kingdom, Australia, Netherlands, there's just better marketing, I think, done over there.
I don't know, Tom. There's a lot of crud over here too. I think universally there's good and there's bad, and it's quite hard to put a line down the middle of anywhere. You've got founders and CEOs who have the understanding about where marketing sits in the organization. I do find those are the organizations that do marketing better, and the ones where they're driven by the accountants, the lawyers. A lot of businesses have CEOs who come through the accountancy vertical, and they're the ones that go, so what's this 3 million quid over here? And I'm using direct first person experience here as very recent history. What's this 3 million quid doing? That's TV brand spend to build the brand. How many customers does it get us? What's our CPA? Okay, let me explain how brand and direct response works. We need to make some savings. We're going to drop it. I've had that conversation in every job I've had in the last 12 years, and it's driving me insane.
Guess what? So have I, and I'm a lot older than you.
Right, and it's remarkable. There isn't like some sort of CEO grand forum somewhere where somebody doesn't turn around from Red Bull and go, guys, I don't mean to piss in your chips here, but this is kind of why we're a multi-billion-dollar business. It's because we put 50% into brand every year. And the guy from Coke will be waving a flag going, yeah. And the guy from Tesla, well, let's say Tesla, but the bigger car brands, the ones that invest in the brand as heavily, the direct response lifts, everyone in marketing knows that story. And yet we still have the conversation. And amazingly, we still suffer from the massive cut on brand spend because it looks like an easy short-term win. And it makes you want to weep. It's like, guys, what are we doing? What are we here for?
Well, those are big companies. So we get caught up in the double Jeopardy law as a smaller brand. And I work with micro firms, 10 or less employees primarily. And so we don't have, laws that we can apply that small. There's a lot of give and take. I mean, a lot of, you have to base on practical understanding, like, well, if the website's horrible, there's a good chance your business stinks. You got to fix that. And you don't want to build up your social properties on rented land. You've got to try to send your messages out from your blog that's hosted on your site. So we're dealing with a lot of this stuff with our clients now. So the first part was about getting started, and I love that. The second part, you have a lot of lessons there where there's, just top, as you look back on your career, these were the top lessons you wanted to pass along on tactics and campaigns and branding and that type of stuff. At least that's what it appeared to me. I'm just curious, what's the second half, what you were trying to accomplish there?
Yeah, do you know what, Tom? I'll admit it. I cheated somewhat in the second half because, like I said at the beginning, I've written for Marketing Week and Campaign a lot over the last few years, probably 70, 80 articles now. And I looked at all that content that I sort of had published, and it was all along the vein of commentary around channels, timely campaigns that were live at the time that I wanted to have a review of. And I looked at it all and went, actually, this is the bringing to life of all the stuff in the first part of the book. So I repurposed it all. I had to rewrite it, obviously, to some extent.
Yes.
So I repurposed it to fit into the second part of the book, which was, okay, we've talked about how to get a job in the industry. We've talked about going through and understanding channels. We talked about building a strategy. We talked about where budget fits in and KPIs. What do you do then? What does this end look like? And where do the mistakes get made? And that's where the second part of the book comes in. And it talks, it's very differently structured to the first part, and purposely so. So you can dunk your toe into it. You can look at the chapter headings and go, okay, that sounds interesting. It's talking about these brands in this sector. That's what I'm interested in. I might read that first. So, and it really is just this free form of, here's what was happening. Here's my take on where it went wrong, where it went right. The regulatory piece, some of the more boring elements of our marketing careers. It's the stuff you kind of need to know before you get buried into it. And I really sort of went on the rampage across all sorts of industries, from sex work to alcohol to social media to dating. Really just finding out where these nuances of insight were, and crucially, where are these giant mistakes? The giant mistakes, and it hopefully is seen as encouraging by you guys, the students in your career. You'll make a lot of them. I make them still a lot, and some of them, the small ones, it's good, learning curve, great. Some of them have been monsters, career-threatening stuff, and it is part and parcel of your life in a marketing career. You can never avoid cataclysmic mistakes, and then that's before you realize to do anything truly great, you kind of need to step out of the data-driven comfort zone into the unknown, because the great stuff doesn't come from what's been seen in the past and what's been proven and historically. The great stuff, the stuff that changes the dial by triplicate figures, the stuff that gets you patted on the back and promoted to CMO by the time you're 26, is that stuff that's unproven. Number one, it's bloody hard to come up with stuff that really does work that well without historical evidence. Number two, it's about influence. You've got to be able to influence everyone in the business, from the people executing all the way through to the board, that this is the best way to spend the money. And if you look at some of the examples I use, I think I name-checked Skoda, the European car brand, probably one of the more famous heroic Hail Marys of the last 50 years. They went from being a former Soviet bloc crap car brand to being a rival for Volkswagen via marketing. They didn't really, the product shift happened right at the beginning, where the product was okay and then made okay plus. And then the marketing kicked in to change perception over the course of about 6 to 7 years. And that stuff, that is, and I had lunch with one of the guys heavily involved in that process a couple of years ago. That's a fascinating story in its own right. And that shows the power. But he was very clear. It was a nightmare. He spent 2 years having to sell and influence to get the good version out. And repeatedly, he was threatened with having to soften it down with compromise. And this is the enemy of brave creativity. It really is. It's so easy to go in and ask for your 2 million quid for your great big idea. And the CEO and the C-suite are like, okay, we're not comfortable because it feels a bit unproven. Well, why don't we just do this? Can't we do this version? We did this style of things before. What happens when you take all this opinion and you put it into a big bowl and you mix it up? And you end up with this beige soup of an idea, right? And nothing great comes out from that. So owning the vision and being committed to it and going through that horrible process of influencing everyone without diluting the idea, that is the difficult bit. Coming up with the brave strategy, that you guys in the class, you'll come up with 1 million of them, and I've got a laptop full of my hero vision billion-dollar ideas that have never seen the light of day. But the difficult bit is actually getting it made, and getting it made in its purest, greatest form. And that takes bravery, and it takes persistence and resilience and thick skin. And sometimes you will lose those battles. No matter what you say and what you do, the CEO will say no. The CFO will say, not going to support it. And you'll cry into your cornflakes. You'll be so upset about it. But don't be put off. because that is the route into the greatest campaigns. You have to realize that now, and you won't get all of them, but if you realize it and you have the persistence, you will get some of them. And when you get those some, that payoff is gold dust.
Yeah, unfortunately, there is a lot of compromise that you have to accept. Nothing's worse than having anything, an ad, a marketing piece that is a result of a brainstorming session, or the finance guy says, oh yeah, put this in there. Or you have an ad with 16 different messages, or, let's put, as opposed to one simple message, because you're lucky if they even walk away with that.
Yeah.
The small business that wants to put, we do this, that, this, and this, and by that.
And you can spot them, Tom. You can spot them a mile off. You can spot the ones. You can spot the TV ad that has a sign-off line that's 4 lines long, because they're trying to get a product benefit, a product attribute, a brand strength, a brand vision, and some sort of snappy tagline that sounds cool to kids, all in there. And you're looking at it going, Jesus Christ, it's like word soup. It's like a disappointing game of Scrabble. And actually, the 3-line sign-off that sells this ethereal dream is the win. But yeah, the compromise is it's like the poison that drifts around. It's a poison cloud that drifts around every great campaign, and you just got to push on through to get to that pure version, because the pure version is the winner. That's the one that people, the audience, the customers, the only people we give a shit about as marketers, that's the one that they'll respond best to.
Well, without a doubt, reading the book will help the students, and I encourage. Now I'm going to talk to the students that are listening to this program. Get the hard copy. It's a soft version. It's $10. Bring it with you to the beach, to the pool. When you are done burning all your textbooks and you are relaxing after putting through 3 semesters of online learning and pandemic crap, when you're ready to start learning again, I want you to pick this book up, Brands, Bandwagons, and Bullshit, and apply it to your career, because it'll help you. I tried hard this semester. I really have. I've given you tons of resources, and I don't know if you even listened to even one mini lecture. I know some of you did not, because I see these involvement. I know some of you have just tuned me out all semester, but that's okay. You can pick it right back up by getting a copy of this book and reading it from cover to cover. So, okay, now, Harry, I'm done doing my aside to the students. Now we're back on the interview. So, what would you say is the best advice that you could share with the students that are, they get their diplomas, 2 weeks on Sunday at 4:00 in the afternoon? One of the things you said in there, I want you to expound upon the importance of your first boss, your good mentor. Explain that.
Yeah, no, it's sort of tautology, really. If you can find somebody who you can learn from, who you respect, who crucially respects you, who gives you the time to explain things, who takes you beyond the core of your day job, because in anyone's first job in marketing, it's at the coalface. You're expected to earn your keep, and that often means long hours. It means hard work. It's not always the fun stuff, and you have to grind, and you'll learn. And as you learn, you'll get better, and as you get better, you'll get promoted, and you'll get more money, and this is all great. But those steps will be made significantly easier, and your long-term capabilities will be enhanced massively by latching your claws into somebody you see early on as they know what they're doing. I like the way they run themselves. I like the way they handle people. I like the way they manage people, because this is the other thing as well. On paper, as marketers, it's strategy, it's budget management, it's understanding KPIs, it's data analysis, it's executing campaigns. From your second job onwards, it's about managing people. In your third job, it's 50, 60% managing people. And by the time you're CMO, it's 80% managing people, both upwards and downwards, crucially. And there's a key differentiator there. You need to be able to manage upwards, downwards, and sideways to be effective and to influence, as I just pointed out. So finding a mentor figure who is able to give you those leanings, both in terms of professional skills and how they handle their business and handle their teams. The soft skills as well, absolutely vital to see from somebody who is good at driving the best in their team to be that, let's get it done, let's hit our numbers, let's be commercially viable, let's really understand the data, and understands when to be soft. Like, is someone having a rough time? Do they need an arm around their shoulder? When you start looking into personality profiling as a manager, this is where this stuff gets fascinating. And I mentioned in the book some of the tricks you might do in personality profiling tests. Everyone gets a color cohort. Some people, personality-wise, work way better by having a supporting arm around them and get taken on the journey. Other people need a hard target, need some numbers and some data, and get sent on their way to go and excel. And those two personality types are poles apart. Understanding who they are as quickly as possible, that takes time and skill, and hopefully, resilience of an HR department allows you to do these personality scenarios with your team. Your good bosses, your mentor figure, will do these actions inherently and naturally. You'll see them. You'll see how they operate and work a room. You'll see how they motivate people, both by soft words of, the carrot and the harder words of a stick. And they do it because they are excellent people managers. So between the hard skills and the people management side, a mentor figure will greatly speed up your progression as a top marketer. So I always go down that route, and I didn't have one necessarily. I had a couple of people in various bits of my career who were good, and I picked up skills from them, and one in particular who was a good people manager. But I had to really seek it out. I had to go, through the agency or through the organization and find them out and then actively push to get time with them. It wasn't something that happened on a plate. So you do have to be aware of that. You have to sort of take it as your own mantle. This is one of the great things that will happen to you early in your career, but you might have to push for it. So take it from me. That's one of the biggest wins you can ever have, is a strong mentor figure. If you need to hunt them out, do it. Do it as a priority.
The other one that I really stress with students from having found this the hard way, you want to work for a CEO who believes in marketing, because there's a lot that, when I worked at a Cardone Industries, which I spent the majority of my career there, it was harder to sell inside than to sell outside. It was harder to get programs approved from the know-it-all president, I did marketing once, that's been a problem at other companies. I worked at a transmissions parts distribution company where the founder was living in 30 years ago, hadn't been in the marketplace. The project.
We've all been there. Yeah, I had one doing a brand architecture and guidelines for a US firm, actually, and I had the experience of a senior executive telling me, he pointed to a color swatch. He brought it into the office and pointed to a color swatch and said, my wife likes these ones. And I bit my tongue because I was leaving the business anyway, so I could have been truthful, but I'm an Englishman, so I'm reserved and pleasant by definition. But Christ Almighty, you're there going, this is wrong for a billion reasons, but that kind of stuff does still happen, and you just have to push on through and educate. It's our role as marketers. We're the experts at marketing. We educate people, and that links into that influence piece as well. People don't like being influenced by being told, no, it's marketing. That's one of the risks of the marketing vertical, is people think it's hugely expensive and it's a waste of money. Now, you need to educate people that, no, it's hugely expensive in some guises, but the return, the ROI, provably is why this business is successful, and take them on the journey with you. If they need some time, if they look as if they're kicking back and rejecting you, talk to them about it, show them how the dots join together. Chuck them a PDF version of my book, which will give them, that's kind of the other audience for the book, is senior executives who are nervous about marketing because they've never really understood it. They probably just need to walk through, well, here's what these all do and here's what they mean. By the way, here's why we do it. It isn't because we like going for long lunches with agencies. Those days died out 20 years ago. We do it because this is the best way for us to spend our money to get a multiple of 5 times plus as ROI, which means this business thrives and grows, because no other department is doing anything about growth. This is the growth pocket. So yeah, that education piece is key.
Yeah, and without a doubt, the CEO is the key at the company. If they don't believe in marketing, you're done. You're
Yeah,
done.
absolutely. But also we still live in hierarchical worlds. So if you get the CEO on side, even if you've got a CFO who's boring and reticent, a CPO who doesn't like how to spend money on marketing or thinks they're a marketer, an ops girl who really doesn't fancy the idea of your strategy. If the CEO turns around and goes, "I love it," it's remarkable how quickly everyone else loves it.
Amen. Truth. You're right. It's well, we used to have a saying, what's the mood of the gods? How's the president doing today? Because if he's grumpy, we're all going to pay the price, or it's a cat kicking world. Without a doubt, soft skills. We talked a lot about that in class as well. All right, so we hit the CEO. Any other advice for success in the early career?
Yeah, and it's one that's sort of very personal to me. I think my perception starting out was that there were glamour jobs out there. I mean, I was lucky. I did a placement, like I said to you earlier, in Saatchi & Saatchi, world famous ad agency. I did my graduate time at M&C Saatchi. And my perception was this glamorous agency world, big names, big clients, whatever else. No real perception of what I really wanted to do. I mean, arguably, with the benefit of massive hindsight, I wish I'd gone down the copywriter route because, as you guys will now know, I quite enjoy writing. I'm not a terrible writer. I've written an awful lot of copy for campaigns over the last 20 years. And I kind of wish I'd gone down that path, but it was made to seem as if that wasn't like the business-like, commercially savvy route. The proper job was account management. I went down that path, and I wish I'd paused for thought and looked at me, the person, to go, number one, what do I like? Number two, what am I inherently good at? Because this is the thing I see in successful people that friends of mine who've made a mint, who've got great companies. They love their work. They love their work because it comes easy to them. It's what they're good at. It isn't something they have to bash their head against a wall repeatedly, go, "Oh, I don't really understand it, but I'm still doing it for a living because this kind of looks like the best version of the job. I need to be a CMO. I've gone through this myself, and I've done the tough route in. I've been CMO. I'm not particularly good at loads of the stuff required of CMOs, but I work harder at them, and I do that. Success will come much more easily if you lean on the things that you are naturally good at. And if you're naturally good at things, you tend to enjoy them more anyway. And if you do that, work doesn't feel like work. And there's so many disciplines out there within marketing. There's a great difference between the skill set required for a really good performance marketer to that of a really great PR, to that of an all hands head of marketing who needs to have the capability to understand strategy and how to plug in everything together, to a data analyst. All of these are very wildly different roles. And in the book, you'll get to read in the chapters about the basics of what these roles entail. Have a look at them. Have a look and go, do you know what? That sounds way more my cup of tea. And trust me, I won't speak to everyone because there's a lot of people who are different and people out there who are great at everything, lucky them. But if you see one that calls out to you and you think, I really love the sound of that job, I'd probably suggest go and have a crack at that for 5 years because you'll probably be really good at it and you'll probably make a load of money because you're really good at it. You'll sail up through the ranks. So I think that would be the big, easy takeaway is, find the stuff. And I know it sounds a bit Gary V, follow your passions and your riches will follow, which is, making me want to shoot myself in the head. But there is an element of truth to that. So if you do something that doesn't feel like work, then you'll have an awful lot more fun.
Yeah, you gotta, yeah, I agree. There's always going to be hassles in your job, but if you like what you do, you look forward to getting out and doing it. And if you don't, and the other side is, I always thought I wanted to be the guy that ran sales and marketing until I became that guy as, the vice president. And I learned a lot of things. One, the president lied to me. Two, as an investment, this company was held by an investment bank, investment group, and all that mattered was how much money we make in each quarter.
Oh, surprise.
And so therefore I had to get rid of one of the clients who now is one of the only clients you could sell in the automotive parts industry. And so that wasn't really fun. And I said, you know what? Be careful if you think the grass is greener on the other side. It could be AstroTurf, plastic grass. Really evaluate, because I hated sales. When, I've been doing marketing for so long, I went from, assuming that this position was marketing driven primarily with some sales management leadership through my team. No, it was 98% sales and marketing. No. So yuck. So that's the other side. You got to, be careful what you want. You may get it in your career. So definitely like what you do. And I tell my kids, when you start out, you'll be more specific. And as you grow up in the industry towards a CMO, that's more of a general knowledge. So you want to learn as much as you can in the different areas.
Potentially, Tom, there is the flip side. There's, like I mentioned, Carrie Rose is a great example. CEO of Rise of 7, hugely successful, multi-office, including a New York office now. She's 28 years old, I believe.
Wow.
She's got 160 odd employees, very successful PR and search firm, SEO firm. And, she's very active. She's very much an influencer type. She likes all that stuff. So obviously the profile raising stuff comes naturally to her. But she's at the top of the tree at 28 years old of one vertical. That's, that you can be the top of the tree in a channel and live there very, very comfortably.
Yes.
I'd like to encourage anyone to think CMO, and trust me on this, CMO is not top of the tree in any guise. I've very much been the whipping boy in various guises over the last 5 years. And I thought I had the top job in marketing. No, the top job in marketing was when I had my own consultancy business and I told the client to fuck off because they were doing unethical practices. That's top of the tree. So there's very much that alternative route of being your own boss in a smaller entity where you control your time and your work-life balance can be greatly enhanced. So that's even another flex you can pull to go off tangentially off to the side.
In fact, in this world, that's a great flex. If you can control your work as well as your mental and physical health, because lots of jobs are scary from a work-life balance. And without a doubt, I don't want my students to think that I'm selling one form of success. Without a doubt. Again, we if you're an SEO and you love it, do it. I have a graduate who's just crushing that. And so whatever you find, wherever your joy is found in this area of work, because let's face it, we have to work for a living. So.
Well, I also know some very miserable rich people. Oh
yes.
So there's a very key part to the idea that getting to a level, $1 million in the bank and a sports car outside the condo, there's a lot of misery that floats around that sort of level of perceived success, and there's a lot of happiness around leaving work at 4:30. Or doing what I did this morning. I went to my daughter's new nursery and hung around and then went for breakfast with my wife in a tiny sort of medieval village. I had a hell of a morning. There's grades of success that go way beyond the financial.
Yep. Amen. I agree with that. So, I think we've, the purpose of this call was for you to give an introduction to the book. I think we've done a nice job. So after, I announce we've got a special speaker and we got a special offer, and we've taped it for you, and here it is on the YouTube channel. And I'll send this out to every student, so they'll get it. They just got to press a little button and they can watch.
Awesome.
I think we've done a nice job. Are there any final thoughts you have? And by the way, Harry, I'll probably bring you back when I have live students in the fall, so we can do this in a session. Typical of most of these special speakers. When you come to my class, you speak on a topic and then the kids ask you questions. Unfortunately, the kids aren't here, but this is their surprise. This is their gift. You are a graduation speaker. So
I'm sorry if they're disappointed that
please.
They haven't got a case of beer and like a barbecue on the beach. I'm disappointed.
Listen to me. Don't you? The beer I'm taking care of. I won't tell you on this call, but don't you worry. There's a graduation beer for each graduate, and I'll say no more.
Awesome.
We'll not. So anyway, any final words? for
No,
this
I mean,
graduation speech?
yeah, the final words are only to congratulate you guys and the students. I think I'm incredibly jealous. You guys are on the cusp of what I think is like one of the most fun careers you can possibly have. You're on the cusp of choosing what that career looks like. It's not always easy. If it was easy, it wouldn't be fun. I know that sounds glib from someone who's had a few jobs, but it's true. You are at this fun stage. You don't have mortgages yet. You haven't got kids and responsibilities in that respect. Go off and have fun finding your feet and finding your path. Even then, it doesn't stay easy. But the ups and downs are where you celebrate success. You have great times, you have difficult times, you have difficult people, difficult clients perhaps, but it's all part and parcel of what makes it a rich career, because you don't ever have 2 days the same. That to me is the idea of hell. Going in and knowing what my Tuesday in middle December next year looks like, that to me is terrifying. So best of luck with everything. If you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, if you've got any questions, I'm very, very happy just to be a bouncing board. So catch up with me on LinkedIn, ping me notes. Tom will have my contact details as well if you want to come across privately. But yeah, best of luck. Enjoy your summers, enjoy some well-deserved time off, and enjoy the process of finding where you're going to end up in the marketing world, because it's great. You're going to have an awful lot of fun. So good luck with that. And yeah, Tom, thanks very much for having me on.
All right, now I want to put our offer up there right now and share it one more time. There we go. All right, everybody. There's the book, Brands, Bandwagons, and Bullshit. Those embarking on a career in marketing, meaning you, my students. $2 for the Kindle. I'm saying get the soft cover, right in the margins, put it in your briefcase or your book bag or whatever you're carrying to the job so you could read it and refer to it often. All right, without any more to say, I want to thank you, Harry, for coming on and sharing this insights into this book that I loved. And to my students, congratulations as well. I will see you when we walk down and you pick up your diplomas. Finally, after 3 semesters of being online, we are liberated and moving on to life. Congratulations and Rams up to my Westchester Golden Rams. Take care, everybody. Thanks. All right, my friend. Mate, appreciate your help.
That was awesome. That was such fun, Tom. Thank you.
We will see you on LinkedIn, and I will share all your details. Thanks again.
Yeah. And Tom, if I can do anything, if I can do a guest lecture or anything like that, I'd be more than happy to in the fall, because I can't thank you enough for all this. You are my biggest fan in the States, and I really